Down the country lanes of East Anglia you will find some of England's finest surviving medieval art treasures. I've come to Wenhaston in Suffolk, which is not far from the east coast. It's a typical Suffolk village with houses built of brick and flint, and amid the pantiled roofs is the parish church of St Peter. The church is not grand architecture, it is a typical small Suffolk parish church rebuilt in the 15th century, when this part of the world was particularly prosperous. Built of flint with limestone dressings, it has identikit perpendicular tracery in the windows. It is a very pleasing church indeed, and was positively glinting on the late summer's day I visited this year. As I passed through the south door, it was a nice relief to set foot inside the cool interior on such a warm day. I came here to see an object that is now in the north aisle of the church, an object that was once common in medieval England and is now, due to the iconoclasm of the English Reformation, vanishingly rare. It is a painting executed in oils on wooden boards, and it portrays the Last Judgement of Christ, or the Doom as it was known in medieval England. The word doom is the Old English word for judgment. There are only a handful of painted panels of this subject matter surviving now, and all of them survive quite by chance. The Wenhaston Doom was made to fit above the rood screen at the division between the nave and the chancel of the church, and was shaped to fit the form of the timbers of the roof at this point. At the Reformation, rather than discarding this painting, it was whitewashed and then covered up with godly and edifying texts from the Bible. The superstitious image, as the Protestant reformers thought of such paintings, was replaced now with the pure word of God. The painting remained in this position, covered up until 1892, when at the restoration of the church, the architect, thinking the timber was simply a load of worthless old planking painted with writing, had the painting thrown out into the churchyard, ready to be put on a bonfire. Thankfully, it rained that night, and the rain began to wash off the whitewash that covered the painting, and then began to reveal the lively medieval colour beneath. The painting was then restored, but rather than being placed back up high, it was placed in the north aisle at eye level where it can be better seen. The first thing to notice about the painting is that there are areas that are not painted, which shows that the artist who created this work of art was working around some objects that were already installed in front of the wooden boarding called the tympanum. It is clear what this was. It was the great rood cross with the accompanying figures of the Virgin Mary and St John the Evangelist, which were always placed at the entrance to the chancel of English parish churches. The lost rood was evidently what is termed a cross raguli, a cross carved to look like rough-hewn timber, pieces of a tree with the side branches all cut off. Although the boards of the doom could be covered up, images of the rood were ordered to be removed from church buildings at the Reformation, and these were probably burnt. And all we have now is the haunting outline of what has been lost. The combination of the image of the cross and Last Judgement so closely in conjunction must have had considerable symbolic and visual power. Due to the position of the rood and the figures of Mary and John, the narrative elements of the Last Judgement scene have been broken up by the painter into individual panels, placed around the shadow of these lost figures. In the top left-hand quadrant, formed by the rood, is Christ appearing in majesty, sitting on a rainbow to judge mankind. He is clad in a red robe and shows the wounds in his hands, feet and side. Just below him, and near the crossbeam, is an angel blowing a trumpet, the last trump. In the top right-hand quadrant are figures of the Virgin Mary and St John the Baptist kneeling in prayer. They are interceding for the salvation of mankind. Behind and below them you can see the departed rising naked from their graves, though one chap is still wearing his winding sheet. This is a reminder that in the period that this panel was painted, around 1500, people were taken to their graves naked, simply wrapped and sewn into their white linen shrouds. Below the right crossbeam we see another image. This shows St Michael the Archangel weighing souls in a pair of scales. It was Michael's job to decide if a soul should go to heaven or to hell, based on the weight of a person's sins or virtues. If a person's sins outweighed their virtues, they were in trouble. The devil is shown here trying to bargain with St. Michael for the soul of a man who is sat praying in the left-hand pan of the scales. The devil has in his hand a large scroll with a list of the man's sins, and he has popped a couple of demons in the other pan to try and outweigh the soul and condemn him. In the bottom left-hand quadrant, we begin to see what happens to those who are judged worthy of heaven. St. Peter, recognisable because he is dressed as a pope and has the key to the gate of heaven, is having a chat with 4 of the saved before letting them into paradise. Now, these 4 naked figures are a somewhat unlikely crowd. We have a king, a bishop, a cardinal and a queen. A clear message is here. If they can be saved, given the weight of responsibility they have for others, there is potential for anyone to enjoy heavenly bliss. Further to the left is the gate of heaven, and a couple of lucky souls are entering to enjoy their eternal reward. They are being welcomed into the heavenly city, the New Jerusalem, by angels. Now, if we go to the far right-hand side of this tomb painting, we can look upon the fate of the damned. A group of naked souls are being dragged by colourful demons with grappling hooks and a red-hot chain into Gehenna, into hell, and to the eternal punishment awaiting the damned, where Jesus says in Matthew's Gospel, there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Now, there is literally gnashing of teeth here, for hell is portrayed, as it often was in the Middle Ages, as a great consuming mouth, the mouth open wide to devour all, its teeth, its fangs bare. And inside the great mouth of hell are the faces of tortured souls, praying and pleading for mercy. It is a vivid image with a seemingly very stark message. However, all is not what it seems. The iconography of this painting, with the marked division of the saved and the damned, cannot be understood simply in isolation without understanding a little more about late medieval Catholic piety. Nor can you understand from such paintings the totality of the late medieval worldview. Such paintings were only one part of a rich and complex tapestry of images that formed a visual whole. Now, if you want to learn more about these and their complex purpose and meaning of the Doom painting, why not watch my video on Doom paintings from last year, where I explore that subject in much more depth. It's a great joy to visit Wenhaston and to be able to see this painting, which, due to it being covered in whitewash for much of its history, has preserved the vibrancy of its colour, giving us a glimpse firsthand of just how bright medieval church interiors were. I woke up this morning to discover not only the first proper frost of the season, but that the channel has now passed the 70,000 subscriber mark. I want to say a big thank you to all of you who subscribe and support the channel. I started the channel a little under 2 years ago, not knowing quite where it would lead, but not expecting it to have the success and the reach that it now does. Over the last year or so, I've been really touched to see such a fantastic community develop here, and I'm grateful for all the many comments in the comments box. I find these encouraging and enriching, and they often change my thinking about the subjects I cover, and sometimes send me off in interesting directions I hadn't explored before. So thank you all very much indeed for being here.